Hey everybody, it's the Goblin Guy, and today we are going to be looking at some nonsense and tomfoolery with leftists losing it over Trump bringing white South Africans as uh, refugees to the United States, and it's causing a big stir right now. And we're going to go ahead and check out the article from Rolling Stone. And then we're going to look at some extremely disturbing comments rooted in white guilt and some other leftist nonsense. It's pretty disturbing. Like I said, let's get into the article. So Rolling Stone, pretty left-leaning, very left-leaning publication. So what we've got here is some some white South African people who were farmers, worked on farms. They're known as Afrikanners, actually, I believe. And the issue there is that the black led government there, the overwhelmingly black population, which is fine, but the white people settled South Africa when there was practically no one there about 500 years ago. It was Dutch settlers, and they built the country, they built the infrastructure. There was practically no one living there at the time. And then when the civilization got built up, the Africans, the native Africans from not from South Africa, from other areas came in and said, I want a piece of this. And then now we're at the point where they're, actively discriminating, and there's some questions as to whether they're genociding some of the white population, and these people are fleeing to the United States. And it's kind of a mask-off moment for the left and even some people on the right. So let's get into the article, and then we'll get into some other stuff. So it says, amid a widespread crackdown on immigration and refugee programs, the Trump administration is slated to bring white South Africans to the U.S. as refugees on Monday, multiple news outlets reported. They will now have a pathway to American citizenship. The move is the first in a much larger scale relocation effort. Okay, so the first group of people, just to butt in here a little bit, was 50, I believe, and the lefties are already losing it. I believe they're talking about upwards of 50,000, which, when you compare it to the hundreds of thousands of Hispanics, Indians, etc., that have been brought into the country, it's not even a scratch. But anyway, that being what it is, White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller told reporters on Friday, the Trump administration suspended the refugee settlement program on his first day in office for his second term. That was good because there was way too many people coming in way too fast, and froze funding for resettlement agencies. In Uganda, for example, these cuts meant that food rations for 1 million people have been cut off. Okay, I don't care. I'm sorry. The country's $37 trillion in debt. We have a massive welfare state. 70% of our GDP goes towards, or our government. I'm sorry, our government spending goes towards the welfare state. We can't feed the world. It's not our problem anymore. Never should have been our problem. Continuing with the article, what's happening in South Africa fits the textbook definition of why the refugee program was created, Miller said. This is race-based persecution, which is absolutely true. The refugee program is not intended as a solution for global poverty, and historically it has been used that way, which is unfortunate in my opinion. The lever first reported the news that white South Africans could be admitted to the U.S. as refugees. The U.S. will give about 50 white South Africans help with housing, groceries, and other needs, according to a document reviewed by the Associated Press. The Trump administration could admit as many as 1,000 Afrikanners this year. They will be receiving emergency support from the Federal Office of Refugee Settlement, which is a division of the Department of Health and Human Services. In February, the Trump administration issued an executive order that the U.S. would promote the resettlement of Afrikaner refugees escaping government-sponsored race-based discrimination. The White House also released an executive order saying the U.S. would only admit refugees who can fully and appropriately assimilate. This is important right here, who can fully and appropriately assimilate. That should be a standard for anyone that is coming here. We should not be having people from North and South Africa and South America coming here and instituting their own cultures. This is why a large part of the reason why the United States is in the situation that it's in now. There's way too many people flooding in here that do not want to assimilate and are bringing their own culture and not letting go of their own culture, sometimes multi-generational, not even learning English. So let's continue with the article. Elon Musk, the head of the so-called Department of Government Efficiency, was born in South Africa. He has said in a post on X that a political group is promoting a white genocide in the country, a claim that has been widely denied. Well, I've seen multiple videos where large groups of the Black African government led people were chanting for death and genocide to the white farmers. So, which, by the way, and I'm not saying this to be racist, but it's as the white farmers are leaving, no one knows how to run the farms properly, and those people are going to starve. So they're going to cause their own demise. So it is what it is, and I hope to God we don't step in and start trying to feed those people, because they did this to themselves and they deserve whatever happens to them. Far right-wing groups in South Africa actively go on to demand, go to America and promulgate this idea of a white genocide because, of course, when you have a high murder rate, white people do get murdered. Well, of course. Gareth Newman, head of the Justice and Violence Prevention Program at the Institute of Security Studies in South Africa, told NBC News in February. White people are likely targeted because they are relatively wealthy, he said. Okay, well, that sounds like similar to what's going on in the United States. At the root of the Trump administration's claim is South Africa's recent expropriation law that allows the government to seize land under certain circumstances. Yeah, they're seizing land from white people and giving it to blacks, especially farms, and they don't know what to do with it. 30 years after the end of apartheid, about 7% of South Africans are white, mainly descendants of Dutch settlers, but they own almost 3/4 of the land. Yeah, that's because they were the original. They settled it when almost no one was there, and they built the civilization. And then, as I said, the Africans from other countries came in and said, "I want a slice of this." It kind of sounds familiar. So far, no land has been seized. I don't think that's true. The government of South Africa released a statement Friday saying that the idea that Afrikanners were discriminated against is unfounded. That's also not true. It is most regrettable that it appears that the resettlement of South Africans to the United States under the guise of being refugees, they absolutely are, by the way, is entirely politically motivated and designed to question South Africa's constitutional democracy, a country which has in fact suffered true persecution under apartheid rule and has worked tirelessly to prevent such levels of discrimination from ever occurring again, said Crispin Peary, spokesperson for the Ministry of International Relations and Cooperation. It can often take years to get approval to come to the U.S. as a refugee. Well, it depends on the situation. But the Afrikanners only had to wait a few months. The status of other refugees is in limbo. Last Monday, a judge ordered the Trump administration to admit 12,000 refugees who had previously been blocked from entering the country. We are profoundly disturbed that the administration has slammed the door in the face of thousands of other refugees approved by the Department of Homeland Security months ago, notwithstanding courts ordering the White House to let many of them in. Mark Hetfield, the president of HIAS, a Jewish, of course, humanitarian aid society, said in a statement. That's just not right. Maybe he can. Maybe what's this guy's name? Maybe Mr. Hetfield can work on resettling them to Israel. Maybe that's a solution. All right. So what I want to get to, well, what's more important than the article is the comments. Oh, it's so filled with really bad white guilt. Let's see if I can get these comments up. There we go. Okay. So actually, the first comment here is a true comment. I'm kind of surprised because when I first looked at this a couple days ago, it was pretty brutal. But this person says, all the people who are critical of this decision have no idea what's happening to the people over there. They are literally being slaughtered, and for some absurd reason, it's not illegal. And then then you've got people saying what white people are being slaughtered. Then you've got good. This person says people are being slaughtered in many countries right now, which, I mean, yeah, I get it, but we do take in a ridiculous number of people from all over. The left is evil, I would agree with that. The White House also released an executive order saying the U.S. would only admit refugees who can fully and appropriately assimilate, meaning their skin is white. Well, I mean, you have an issue where people, they come in, they don't learn the culture, they don't learn the language, and they're trying to force the people that already live in the United States to bend the knee to their ways of life when it needs to be the other way around, or they just absolutely should not be here, period. And if you don't understand why that is, you're a moron. And this, of course, this person's saying, and I want to point out that probably a lot of these people that are hypercritical of this decision to bring these people in are probably white people that have been, brainwashed to hate whitey and hate themselves, and that, it's been 60 years now of, white, especially Christian white males, are responsible for every ill in the world and need to pay, quote unquote, pay the price, even though, we built the civilization. Well, whatever. So this person's saying Trump administration is racist, which is completely untrue. Blah, blah, blah. And you see more likes than dislikes. So this person is using all the Marxist words. Trump's a racist, a misogynist, a religious bigot, a xenophobe, anti-science. It's like, okay. All right. So anyway, if you read down these comments, here's one I meant to. I was looking for this one. 7.7% of South Africa's population is white, yet they dominate 78% of the land. Like I said, it's for farming, and it's feeding the other 93% of the people, and they want to kick these people out and slaughter them. Okay, that's great. This person gets it. They're being actively hunted, assaulted, murdered. Okay, so since I looked, but you see, they get ratioed. When people point out the truth, we live in a country where people really don't like the truth. If you point out the truth, there's a good chance you're going to get ratioed by the Marxist morons. So, all right, let's head over to Twitter, and then just to reinforce what I said before, here's Sean Davis posts on Twitter. can't talk. The Zulu people, a collection of non-native tribes militarily forced together by Shaka Zulu, didn't even exist until the early 1800s, long after the Afrikanners settled there circa 1650. This would be like claiming the Irish who showed up in New York in 1830 were the original American settlers. So dumb. This is in response to people claiming that the white Afrikanners who actually settled the land and built it up should have spoken Zulu, which the Zulu people weren't even there when that was going on. And then let's pop over. And this is the mask-off moment for most leftists and the right, because I thought the left was all for immigration, but then if it's white people, all of a sudden they're having a mass panic attack. So Kevin Sorbo says, isn't it interesting that the left is against mass migration when it's white South Africans? And people are saying almost as if they're the real racists, which is absolutely true. This person is saying, isn't it interesting how white Trump supporters hate immigrants of color? That's not true, really. It depends on the situation. We can't bring in, house, clothe, and feed millions upon millions of people, especially when they don't want to assimilate. If you look up some, I don't have the bookmarks here, but if you look up some of the videos, the people that are coming over here from South Africa, they've been here for like half an hour and they're already waving American flags and they can speak the language. You're bringing in people from like Somalia, and you've got Mexicans that have lived here for 3-4 generations, and the household still can't speak English, and they're waving the Mexican flag. They're not assimilating. That's the problem. So, but there's a lot of white guilt here. There's a lot of work to be done. A lot of problems with white people hating themselves and not understanding that we're going to have a societal collapse if the nonsense with just taking care of the entire world at the expense of the few people that are still working long hours and such. It's pretty much all I have to say about this one. Lefties, it's pretty sad. You're not going to get through to these people. Nothing you say to them can get through. They hate white people. They hate America. They want it destroyed, and they think it's going to be a utopia afterwards, and they don't understand that they want to destroy all the people that they can't stand, but they're going to end up Minecrafting themselves in the process. So, all right, that's all I got to say on this one, and we'll see you on the next one. Take it easy.